Let's say somebody were to just walk into a lab and start moving all sorts of objects without touching them. And all the scientists there, they perform all these experiments on that person. They find that they don't have any magnets or anything on them. They're not even just moving magnetic objects, they're moving all sorts of materials, and they don't have any tools on them to do that. So they perform all these tests on this person and they come up with nothing. They find that, consistently this person is just able to move objects without touching them. Okay, would that mean that we would need to modify our view of the world, modify our paradigm or metaphysics, etc., modify our science? Would it mean we would need to modify all of that in order to understand how this person has this ability of telekinesis? Yes, it would, but notice that is after this person has already been analyzed under the current paradigm, the current worldview. We looked at all sorts of tests using that worldview, couldn't come up with anything, so we need something new. So this telekinetic person would have literally beaten the current paradigm. They would have beaten it. They literally would have defeated the current paradigm. Notice those words, beaten or defeated. They're very important for this video. They've beaten the current paradigm. This is not what psychics do consistently. I myself, I'm a person who has claimed to be psychic. So it's not like I'm just some academic being all condescending on psychics here. No, none of us do this. Maybe there's some out there who do. I mean, if you want to show me one, you can. But the point is that, none of us who have claimed to have psychic experiences have demonstrated abilities consistently like this. Now you may say, oh, well, what does it matter, Ethan? Maybe they're inconsistent. Okay, yeah, maybe. But would you tell somebody that you can drink water if you're only able to get up and get yourself a drink of water 10% of the time? No, you'd say you're handicapped, right? I mean, for your own safety, that is what you would say. If you can only get up and get yourself a drink of water 10% of the time, you have to tell people that for your own safety. Hey, look, I need you there most, if not all of the time, to help me get up and get a drink of water. I can't do it on my own. So if you have an inconsistent ability, that does not warrant you to claim the ability. Because again, if you're only able to get up and get a drink of water 10% of the time, you can't claim that. Now, I'm probably going to get a lot of angry comments under this video, but let me explain myself here. You got to actually listen to where I'm going with this. In that, if an ability is not consistent, then it's not really the ability. Okay, so let's say you could read people's minds, their thoughts or whatever their number they're thinking of. Let's say you could do that 10% of the time. Hell, let's up it. Let's say you could do that 50% of the time or 60% of the time, something like that. Okay, that's kind of cool, but is that really anything exciting? Okay, think of a number, I'll get it right. 50% chance. Okay, I guess that's kind of cool. That's kind of exciting, but there's nothing super profound there. And honestly, have any of you ever met a person who could read your mind significantly over 50% of the time? Have you ever met somebody who you could walk up to, or I could message, right? So don't type me in the comments that you've met a person like this unless I can message them and ask them, is there anybody you can talk to or I can talk to where I could say, all right, I'm thinking of a number 1 to 10 and they will get it spot on 80% of the time? Be honest with yourself. Do you know anybody like that? Do you know anybody who could do that significantly over 50% of the time, or even 50% of the time? But even if it's only 50% of the time, or I should say up to 50% of the time, again, there's nothing super deep or profound there. I see a lot of people kind of fight for psychic abilities, like try and fend for them. Like when people act skeptical towards these ideas, they say, "Oh well, you're being too skeptical about it. You're being too intellectual. You're being too academic. Why are you expecting them to have these abilities consistently? Why are you expecting these abilities to even operate on a consistent basis? Maybe they're inconsistent. Maybe they rely on emotional states. Maybe they're spontaneous." It's like, okay, yeah, maybe they are. Maybe you have to be in a traumatic state of mind, which happens very rarely. Or maybe you have to be in a very joyful, excitable state of mind, which happens very rarely. Okay, that's great, but again, that's kind of cool. Like, that's not really, like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, if psychic abilities operate on those bases where you need very specific conditions for that spark to light up, like what's the point? Like, what are we even arguing for anymore? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not that exciting anymore. It's kind of like I don't know if you all ever seen those hoverboards that people will like ride around, usually like college students or university age people. They'll have like these, single wheel hoverboards that they ride around. It's like, why do we call that a hoverboard? Like, back in, let's say, the 80s, when people thought we would have hoverboards by now, they weren't thinking of, oh, like there's going to be this board with like a single wheel in the middle, and that's like the hoverboard. No, they thought we were going to have platforms which did not need to touch the ground at all. Like, they would literally hover. Like, that's a hoverboard. But then this company or whoever invented the hoverboard, they go and they make this board with a single wheel in the middle. And it's like, oh, look, we're going to call that a hoverboard. Like, okay, that's kind of cool, I guess, but that's not super profound. It's not a hoverboard, right? So, like, what's the point in calling it a hoverboard if you're sacrificing a lot of the beauty and innovation and excitement that we would expect to be there with a hoverboard? That's what I'm getting at. What is the point in calling something a psychic ability if it doesn't have the same level of awe or wonder or beauty as a person who could read your mind 80 to 100% of the time? Right? Like, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be amazing if you met a person who could rattle off your thoughts consistently 80 to 100% of the time? That would be awesome, right? Like, that's beautiful. That's powerful. But they do it 40 or 50% of the time, or much less. Like, again, just like, what's the point? Why call that a hoverboard? See? And again, I'm not just like being condescending here. I'm talking about myself in this video as much as I'm talking about anybody else. I've claimed all sorts of psychic stuff in the past. But like, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to. Like, what is the point in calling it a hoverboard? Okay, yeah, I admit, maybe psychic abilities are naturally inconsistent. Maybe you need to be in a very specific set of conditions or emotional state of mind to get them done. But even if that's the case, what is the beauty there? Where's the awe in that? Where is the wonder in that? There's more awe and wonder and impressiveness in being able to do it consistently, like how you're able to get a drink of water consistently, assuming that you're not handicapped and need help to do so. So see, if there's a person who can do it to those awe-inspiring and beautiful extents, they would be like the person that I used as an example at the beginning of this video. They could walk into a lab, they could do it consistently, and yes, we would need to modify our science in order to understand such a person who has a consistent level of telekinesis, but that would be after they had demonstrated enough consistency and enough beauty and enough awe to literally defeat our entire current paradigm. Whereas with a lot of claimed psychics, I see the opposite. They try to shrink the goalposts. Or I guess expand the goalposts, right? Like if you want to make a shot in a game, it's easier if the goalposts are larger. So they try to expand the goalposts. They try to make it easier. Say, oh, well, I would never go to a lab and try and prove my abilities to a scientist because they're so close-minded and they're so locked in their paradigm that they would miss my abilities. Like, basically the implication there being that the only way you could ever prove psychic abilities is if science changes their paradigms first. But again, where is the awe in that? Where is the beauty? If they have to change their perspective first, then your abilities are not that impressive. They're not that awe-inspiring. If they are awe-inspiring and beautiful and powerful and consistent, you would be able to pull them out of their paradigm. You would not need them to change first. You would not need them to change for you. You would change them. That's the beauty. You would change them. If you are requiring them to change first, then you are literally asking for the rules to be made easier on you, which is not that impressive. Think of how impressive and exciting and awe-inspiring it would be for you to not require a change in the goalpost first. If you could work with the goalpost, you don't have any excuses, you take full responsibility, and you do it. And in doing that, you break the goalposts without changing them first. You break the paradigm. You don't ask the paradigm to be made easier for you, you break it. It is not just the case with psychic abilities, all sorts of spiritual or mystical ideas. This is why I'm so heavy into academia, not necessarily because I'm intellectual. I mean, obviously on my channel, you can see I'm very mystical, knock on desks and stuff. But I think that a mystical, I don't want to call it idea. I think that a mystical condition that is truly beautiful enough and powerful enough and awe-inspiring enough should be able to work within any paradigm. It should be unbiased. It should be democratic. It should be accommodating of any paradigm, meaning it does not need to make excuses in order to prove itself. It could be compatible with any paradigm. Now, yes, if such things were proven, then that would modify the paradigm. But again, you defeat the paradigm. You break it open. You don't ask for it to change itself to your whim. You just simply do it. So I'm not saying that we need to stick with our current paradigms. I'm saying that you have to be the one to make the change. Don't look to others to make the change. That's self-centered. You be the one to make the change. You be the one to break the paradigm. Then you'll see the paradigm break. Don't make excuses. Don't ask other people to do it for you. Like, oh, we got to change our perspective first. We got to change our paradigms first. No, they don't change first. You change first. You change yourself first. Then you change the world after that. You got to change yourself first. I got to change myself first. That is why I'm so heavy into balancing my mystical stuff with the intellectual academic stuff. Hopefully that makes sense. Just sort of a blog post to get you to understand. And I don't know, maybe this video does peeve you off a bit, but hopefully you at least understand where I'm coming from. At least understand it. Try and understand it first. See what I'm getting at here. You want the excitement, the awe, the wonder, the beauty. And if you have to change things first, then where is it? Where is the power in that? All right, let me know if you have any questions. If not, I'll see you all next time. Create a nice day.